All right, and now I'm joined by track's golden girl from 2025, Melissa Jefferson-Wooden, fresh off of 3 gold medals at the Tokyo World Championships, and also now making appearances on big-time TV shows like the Jennifer Hudson Show. Loved the clip, and I need to hear just sort of everything about what life has been like now, I guess, coming back to the States after just an awesome World Championships where, I mean, you were the star.
Yeah, life has been good. Like stuff has just been popping up left and right. Crazy enough, initially I was only going to um, LA for a Nike leadership conference, and then my publicist found out about it and was like, "Hey, like, would you want to go on the Jennifer Hudson show?" So I'm like, duh, yeah, sign me up, sign me up." So that's kind of how that ended up happening.
The clip of you doing the walk down like the spirit, what do they call it, the spirit hall or whatever it is, was fantastic. And it's like there's so many viral videos of people who have done it wrong, and so I need to hear your perspective. I know you had an awesome interview with her, but it's just sort of like that clip of you walking down the hallway is probably just as important as nailing the interview. What was going through your head as you prepared to get sang to and walk down that hallway?
Yeah, so actually they don't tell you like what the song sounds like or anything like that. So you really like when you turn the corner, you're waiting for them to start, and then it's like, okay, let's see what I do. So once they started singing and I heard it, that's I was kind of like, okay, okay. And then I was like, I gotta make sure I do my dance because if I didn't do my dance, literally everybody was going to be upset with me. So I was like, make sure to do my dance and then just have fun with it. So I was like, okay, here we go.
All right, tell me the story of just like how this dance originated because like it's in so many videos and obviously like I think TT has shared a bunch of clips of you also doing the dance. You got Coach Dennis Mitchell to do it at one point too, and so what's the story behind the dance?
So the story behind the dance, last year, my 23rd birthday, um, we had like game night or whatever, and then the music was playing. Like by that point, we had like kind of broken away from playing the games and stuff, and I think people was just like sitting around talking and eating, and this one song was playing, and then all of a sudden, I just started going like this, and everybody was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I don't know." And then I just kept doing it the whole night, and next thing you know, that was just my dance.
No, it's perfect. It's very simple. It's signature, and like it hopefully catches on just sort of as like this a celebration post race that like fans could start doing after
I
you keep
know.
winning.
I
Yeah.
know.
So one thing I'm kind of curious about too is just sort of like this additional spotlight on you kind of after the Tokyo World Championships. It's interesting because it's like it's a World Championships and not an Olympics, and so sometimes like that can be different in terms of just the general consumer of sports, like their appetite for how much they're paying attention to track. And so what have you sort of felt as like the difference between coming off of an Olympic Games and then a World Championships? Like, like is the spotlight just as bright, or like how is it different?
So I think for me, honestly, it's a little different. So more spotlight for the World Championships than for the Olympics for me, only because I got the bronze medal. I didn't get gold or silver, and even though like bronze is still really good, it doesn't hold the same weight as a silver medal or a gold medal at the Olympics. So coming into this year, it was kind of like, okay, like yeah, let's just see how this goes. Like let's just see how this balances out. And the close, like I feel like the closer and closer we got to world champs, it started to feel more like I feel like people actually got excited seeing me go to certain meets and just wanting to like see like what do I do or see how I perform with this person in the race or that person in the race. Like it was actually a really good level of excitement, but it was centered around the fact of like what I had done this year, and then not just because I had gotten a bronze medal last year at the Olympics.
Yeah, so we're gonna jump around, I think, a little bit, just sort of throughout your career, and then specifically focusing on the 2025 season. But how did you sort of handle putting that bronze medal away and then reshifting your goals for 2025? Like, when did that happen, and what does that process look like when it came to mentally resetting and focusing on what you wanted to do in the year ahead?
So I I actually started to shift my focus right after whatever the last event was that I had to do right before I started fall training this past year was the last time I was. I think I had went to a banquet or something, and I had to bring the medals there, obviously. So when I brought them back home, I looked at them one more time, and I was like, all right, like we're closing the chapter on 2024. Like it's a new year. Like I have them sitting in my living room. They're in the big Nike boxes that they gave us last year, but they're literally closed. So every once in a while, I'll peek them open and look at them because it's always good to look at. It's always a reminder of like how much you have already accomplished, but also like where you're trying to go to. So every once in a while I take a peek at them, but for the most part they're closed because I'm like that was last year. Like this is a whole new year. We need to set the standard. Like obviously we already have, but we want to be able to still like elevate it and bring something new to the table every single time. Like I don't want people to get comfortable with seeing me in third place or seeing me just in a Olympic or a world final. Like I want people to be like, oh no, when she steps to the line, like her chances of winning are really, really high.
So the medals for this year are still out though.
Oh yeah, yeah. They're like, well, right now they're kind of like in the case most of the time because we're traveling with them so much, and I would literally cry if anything were to happen to them. But yeah, they are out and about. They're being shown around. I am picky with when I do take them out versus when I don't, or like who I like go out of my way to make sure they see the medals versus who I don't. It's like, oh, if you're here and you see it, oh yay. And then if not, it's like, oh wait, I gotta go see the medals. I mean, I gotta pull out the medals so you can see them. So definitely being really picky.
Do you fly with them in the check bag, or are these on the carry-on at all times?
In my carry-on. In my carry-on where I can see them, where I know they are every single time. I will say, crazy enough though, when we were on the way back from Tokyo, I had to stay an extra day because I did something for Nike. And me, my husband, and Titi, we all traveled together. And so we got on our last flight from Atlanta to Orlando. And the plane that they normally take from Atlanta to Orlando, you don't come in at the front of the plane, you come in where the emergency exit door is. So our bags were kind of like, it was right above us, but kind of like behind us a little bit. And so when we were getting off the plane, someone actually grabbed my carry-on bag with the medals in there. Because Roland was the one wheeling the bag, but he was like, this isn't the same handle, like this ain't the same wheels, like something's wrong. So then Titi got playing, she's like, what's wrong? I was like, somebody has my carry-on bag. And she said, So she switched bags with Roland because she walks way faster than all of us. So she switched bags with Roland. She was like, I'm going to go catch them because I'll catch up to them before y'all do. So we hurried up and got on the little plane train. And thankfully, the people was walking really slow. So we caught up to them. And she was like, were you just on the Atlanta flight? And it was like, yeah. She said, I think you have my bag. He was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. But he was apologizing because the person he was flying with was the one who actually picked up the bag and he wasn't really paying attention. So it was a whole misunderstanding. I was definitely kind of like in my feelings because how could you not realize you didn't pick up your bag? But it worked out. So.
Oh my gosh, crisis averted. That would have been so bad.
What? They would have opened that and saw 3 gold medals in there. They would have hit the jackpot. I would have never seen them ever again.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Have you had any instance where you put the bag through like the detector and the scanning, and then it falls over to the side, and they're like, okay, we need to give this one an extra look, just because I mean you're carrying 3 gold medals, so like they have to look at this.
Yeah, it happened. So it happened last year coming from Paris, almost all the time, and then, excuse me, when I was going back and forth between Orlando's funny. Sometimes they'll stop you, sometimes they don't. It just depends on like who's scanning the stuff. But when I had to go to North Carolina the other day, the guy stopped and he was like, what's in here? And I was like, medals. He said, medals? I was like, yeah. He said, what kind of, he said, for what? I was like, track and field, world championships. And he was like, I hope to see you in the Olympics one day. And I was like, yeah, it'll be my second time. It's like, really? But yeah, so it just depends on the airport.
No, that's so funny. All right, so then that kind of gets to like a question about just sort of like, and this was asked to, I remember last year after the Olympics, because there were a couple Diamond Leagues that happened, and there was a press conference, and someone asked Latsila Tebogo, like, do you want to be the face of the sport? And like, and just sort of like having that eyes and the attention, and they pointed out just like how Noah Lyles obviously has done like a good job of embracing that, and he wants to be, kind of at the forefront of that. And then when we look over sort of like at the women's side of things, like Sydney, definitely a bit more private. Gabby, coming off of like an injured year, right, where she wasn't at the World Championships, and so like there is sort of an opportunity for you to step into sort of like that role in the lead up to a home Olympics, not to pit like anyone against each other, but like and or to put anyone down, but is that something that's of interest of you, to embrace sort of like, hey, I kind of also feel comfortable being one of the faces of the sport.
Definitely. I feel like I'm kind of like the best of both worlds in a sense. Like how you say, like Sydney is kind of like more so on the private side, but she's really, really great at what she does. I feel like I want to be really, really great at what I do, but I also want people to see me for me. Which is why I struggle a lot with like posting on social media or just posting like different aspects of my life, whether it's a TikTok or something like that. But I'm very adamant about in person or in face connection and allowing people to get to see me for who I am, based off of their interactions with me, not based off of how I what they may have heard about me or what they may think of me. I want you to be able to make that decision for yourself. And I feel like for the sport, I would be really good for that. And then also like when it comes to being the face of the sport, I want to definitely be a face in the sport, not because of, not only because of what I can do, but also because like obviously in our sport there's so many things that need to be fixed, there's so many things that need to be addressed, in order for us to stop feeling like we do all this work, we go compete against the world, and some of us still have to go home to a job after being away for 3 weeks, or some of us can't even get a shoe contract. Like it's hard, and that shouldn't be the case. But like I feel like with me being the face, I'm over here. I feel like I'm over here trying to like pitch myself in a sense. But I feel like what I bring to the table, like I would be able to, let's see, in a sense, offer ways that'll be able to help everyone. Obviously, being a face or being a star of the sport, every sport has their stars. Every sport has their go-to person. They're always pick me like that. But I want to be the person that's like making sure that it's going to be something that works for everybody, that everybody can somewhat benefit off of. Not just something where, oh yeah, I'll do it as long as I'm getting paid for it at the same time. Like I feel like that's defeating the purpose in a sense. Like I also feel like when people talk about change and wanting to see better, wanting to do more, nobody talks about the downfalls that come with that. Nobody talks about the risks that have to be taken, sometimes the failures that come with trying something new. People are scared of that, and I get that, because in our sport all we have is our image or what we do on the track. But also at the same time, I feel like if you have the balls in a sense to step out on faith, to want to try something new, to want to be a part of something that's different, and it doesn't work, like that's okay. That's what it's about. So
Yeah.
that's why I
No,
would
I mean,
face.
yeah. No, that's strong. And like, because I've done chats before with like Ry Benjamin, where he on Twitter like constantly like floats these ideas out there. It's like, why are we doing this? Or like, what can be, it's things as small as like, why do we wear bibs? And then like at the same time, just bigger picture changes. So what are some of those things that now that you've been a pro, what is this, like 3 years now, I think at this point, what are some of the changes you want to kind of see in like the professionalism of the sport? Because I mean, let's be honest, there have been attempts at this year, right, with Grand Slam, with Athlos, and so like some things work, some things don't, but at the same time, like you need to be able to, like you said, step out and try and make those changes, and maybe some take, some don't. We saw just sort of like prize money get raised across the board because one party started doing it. So like for you, now that you've had this experience over 3 years, like what are some of those things that stick out to you?
So I feel like honestly the biggest thing in our sport, track and field is so broad. It's so worldwide, which is good, because in the grand scheme of things, when you hear it, you're like, you're the fastest woman in the world, or you're the fastest man in the world. You can run, you can jump the farthest, you can throw the farthest in the world. Like that sounds amazing, but we don't have anything that is just for America, or like we don't have, like, we're always grouped with the world. Whereas with other sports, Even though they may have some people who are from overseas or whatever the case may be, we have something that is a solidified foundation in the United States of America. And I feel like that right there is our number one problem. We don't have a voice in America. The only voice that we do have is tied to the Olympics. And there are so many people out there that still think we only run every 4 years.
Yeah.
There's a Super Bowl every year. Everybody knows that there's going to be football games every for 17 weeks from September to January. Everybody knows that. But yeah, like with us, nobody ever knows when we're going to run. Nobody ever knows, like, you know what I'm saying? We have to go out of our way to make sure we put out a schedule for our fans to see and things like that. Like, we don't have any type of structure that is within the United States to be able to give us the platform that we may need at home. Obviously we get the support and the love from the world. Like when you go over on the Diamond League circuit, like Europe, they always show up for their fans. They always, do what it is that they're supposed to do, right? But in the States, that is not the case at all. And it's tough. Well, it sucks because we always say the U.S. team is the hardest team to make. Why is it the hardest team to make if we have nobody there to really see it? You know what I'm saying? And if that's the case, why don't we take making Team USA, like making that something to where you can have USA athletes compete against each other all the time, So
Yeah.
that's just one of the bits for me.
It's tricky because it's like it does take money to try and pull that off, like, right? Like, it's people want to get paid in order to show their cards against their biggest competitors. And so it's like that's one of the challenges to trying to force athletes to race and go head to head. So I mean, like, I know there was that report that now, like, athletes have gotten a portion of the money that was owed to them from Grand Slam, but like your general feelings, like, right? Like, it sounds like you had tremendous success. This was a platform that definitely catapulted you and put you center stage.
Yep.
I'm reading into it, like, you'd love to see it back in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, no, I would. I feel like, honestly, granted, I don't know what everybody else was saying, but I feel like I am one of the only athletes who is a racer in Grand Slam that hasn't bashed it. But that's because I genuinely believe in it. I genuinely feel like this can work. Obviously, the situation was very unfortunate. You think you have things in play. You think you can take people for their word, signs, whatever, contracts, whatever the case may be. I'm just running my mouth. I don't know anything. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
But it's like, at the end of the day, business is still a business. And some of these investors, like, if they don't see key people, maybe that's why that could have been a thing. Like I'm saying, I don't know, obviously, why some people decided to pull out, but I'm just saying some of those things have a factor. But it sucks because, you look at, I'd say it all the time, this might be a little bit more controversial compared to things that I've said in the past, but I do feel like that. I feel like some of the stars that we have in the sport right now, like I said before, it's not always about, if you want to be the face, it's about being for the change as well. And like, even though, say, let's just take Grand Slam for example, obviously, because it's the biggest thing that's been the most controversial this year, right? Let's take Grand Slam. So yes, they didn't have field events, right? They wanted to try something that was different, wanted to basically introduce something to the eye that would be appealing, that people would, gravitate to, latch on to, right? Because as much as the people in the track and field love our sport, like as much as we do love it, our world is so small, right, compared to everyone else. And so for a lot of the times we have a hard time in accepting what can be if it isn't the way it's always been, or if it's
right,
how, whatever the case may be. So I feel like sometimes, like when it came to the stars of our sports wanting to be a part of it, and you didn't get like the Noah Lyles, or you didn't get Rye Benjamin, or you didn't get whoever else, right? It kind of hurt, right? And I get, at the end of the day, being a star, being a face, you want to be paid paid fairly, or paid in a justified way, to solidify your backing and your stance on it. Or maybe you didn't necessarily agree with the format of it, or whatever the case may be, but it's like you didn't even give it a shot. You know what I'm saying? And I just don't think at the end of the day, like, it's fair to the rest of us who were like me now, who's trying to come up. Obviously, Grand Slam worked for me. It gave me the platform that I needed. I was in shape to go and run all these rounds and do whatever I need to do. Like, it worked for me. However, but it hurt in a sense. Like, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
All right, so that season, I mean, it literally ran from April all the way till September. And if I'm looking through just like so many of your results, it feels like there were no moment of weakness really when it came to just sort of like every single time that you stepped out onto the track. If we go back to like March, was that sort of what you kind of expected, or like were there signs that this was going to be a breakout year for you?
So I definitely had a couple of signs in fall training, but it was kind of like, okay, like, let's just take it. Let's just get through the practices. Like, let's just keep doing what we're doing. And then I got to kind of like a dead spot in training. Like, I think it was when I was getting maybe like the month of February. So probably like a month leading up into my wedding. Obviously, my mind was kind of like everywhere. So it was like I was coming to practice and I was still doing good, but I wasn't doing like the things that I really wanted to do. Like,
That's wedding planning.
yes, yes, yes. So, and at that point, it's like, okay, we're like 2 months out for the first meet. But also I'm about to get married, which is very exciting. So after the wedding, Roland looked at me and he asked me, he was like, so like, how do you feel about this year? Like, what do you want to do? Like, what do you think you're like, what do you want to do? Like, let's write it down. And I said, I honestly don't know. But I think I don't know because I was so satisfied with how 2024 went for me. Being that I came back, made the Olympic team after missing 2.5 months of training, like, I was really in a space of content and being happy. And I went back and I watched the race from the Olympics, and I watched how I got out, and I was like, Melissa, like, you're stronger than you think you are, but physically, you just didn't have the strength to be able to finish the race. And every time I look at that race, I see somebody who's a fighter, but gave it everything they had. And so crossing the line, and also like I was kind of like torn. So part of me was like happy because of all that I overcame, but then the other part of me was like, dang, I could have had a silver medal if I just didn't lean 15 meters out. Like, what are we doing? And so getting over that part, allowing myself to be human and really look at it, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, let's go at it from this. But then I was also in a weird spot because I didn't want what happened in 2022 or 2023 after I came off of the year of 2022 to happen again in 2025. Like, me not making that team in 2023 literally haunts me. It was like, I don't ever want to experience that ever again. That feeling of thinking like, you've been there before, you know what it takes mentally, but it ain't working out. Like, I don't ever want to feel like that ever again. And so I wrote down some goals in our book. Not really, I won't say not fully believing in them, but like, I was still having my reservations about what I feel like could happen. So I was, in the words of my coach, I was very scared of the unknown. And once I stopped being afraid of the unknown, that's when I got it together. And I was joking in practice because I'm like, I need to figure out how to run a 200 before we get to Kingston. Like, I can't be going all the way down there to those people's islands and embarrassing myself on national television. I'm not doing it. And so after after Kingston happened, it was kind of like, okay, we're back in the swing of things. We knocked the cobwebs off. Like, let's just keep building. And for me, all the races that I was doing were the Grand Slam meets. So I would literally go run 2 races and then go home for 3 weeks and just train. Like, there was no going to other meets and things like that. I was literally popping out every 2 to 3 weeks or every 3 to 4 weeks, and then going back home and getting really, really good training in. And then it just started to build from there.
Yeah. All right. So you wrote down some times. Can you reveal, I guess, now what you wrote down?
Yeah, so crazy enough in the 200, I always have to laugh when it comes to the 200 because I really played myself for real. My end all be all time this year in the 200 was actually 21:92.
You demolished that.
Yeah, 21:92. I was like, I feel like I can run 21:9. And then in the 100, I wrote down initially in that book, I wrote down 10:70 is what I wrote down. And And so I was kind of like, okay, that could work. But I was like, if I can run at least 21.9, then, I can get to, like, I'll have the strength to be able to finish the 100 I need to.
So that's where just I want. This is where you can get as technical or nerdy, like when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to the actual sprint mechanics, race execution. When you look at a race from 2025, we can
Mm-hmm.
take the 1065 from USA's or the 1061 from World Championships.
Mm-hmm.
What are the things that look different in the execution? Obviously, like you're going faster, right? We see that in the result time, but
Mm-hmm.
when we're as fans watching these things, what are the things that make 2025 Melissa better, faster, different from 2024 Melissa that ended up with a bronze medal?
Uh, the biggest thing was me having a complete fall in Dennis Mitchell's training. A complete fall. It's basically like having that foundation. So yeah, so as the season went on and I just kind of started dropping times myself. So like 10 once I ran 1073 in Philly, I was like, well, 1073 and 2199, I was like, oh, I don't know what you thought you were gonna do this year, but it's nothing compared to what's gonna happen. Like at that point, I was like, at this point, I'm gonna just keep stepping on the line and seeing how far we could take this. And then at U.S. trials, I definitely probably thought that I was gonna run 10.6, 10.65. It was like, okay, sweet spot. Like it's like right in the middle, so it's not like 10.6 high. I would love 10.6 low, but we're not there yet. But we're in a good spot. But the 200 at trials that might be one of my favorites.
2184?
Yes, because it was once again cold. Like the temperature had dropped and everything, and then we had just ran like 45 minutes before that. So it's like, wow, I'm like really in shape, right? So going from that, it was kind of just like, okay, I have 2 more hundreds left, and then like let's start looking to like what we could do in Tokyo. When I ran 1066 in Poland, the race by far that shocked me the most this year.
Really?
I did not think that I was running that fast in Poland. I promise you. I came to the line and I saw the time and I was like, like, what do you mean I just ran 1066? Like, I took an 8-hour flight over here. I got over here 3 days ago. Like, what are you talking about? It's insane. It was totally insane.
Okay, so that was the shocking 100. But for the 200, yes, you pointed out the USA's one, but I'm sure a massive confidence booster would have been the Philly one, right? Because it's like
Oh
in
yeah,
that one, like you
yeah.
beat Gabby, the Olympic champion, and that must have like been a big step forward for your confidence.
It was, but it wasn't a shocker because I
Okay.
knew I was going to beat her. I will be honest to say that I did not like losing in Miami. Like that me swimming at the end and getting beat by Gabby. I fell to third because Tamari came back and passed me as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't too much like that. I was happy that I still won the slam, but I was like, I didn't want to lose that. And so getting ready for Philly, I was like, yeah, like you're not gonna get me twice.
That's the
So
only blemish on your whole season is the
I
third place in that
know.
200. Yeah.
I know. But that's why I don't know if you remember, like my face when I came through the line in Philly, it was kind of like, oh wow, I did that. But I was looking like that because earlier that day, like how I said, I always feel like I'm getting in my own way when it comes to the 200. Um, I was starting. I feel like Philly is where, like you said, it was my breakthrough race, but Philly was also where my confidence definitely like for the rest. It like set up my confidence for the rest of the year. It was like, okay, Melissa, no matter is well not no matter, but like as long as you stay out your own way, like the sky is literally the limit for you. Like as long as you don't try to get in your own way, you can literally go out there and shock yourself. You can go out there and shock the world. You can go out there and do things that nobody else think that you can do. And I for sure needed that. Like definitely needed that.
Okay, so how do you define rival here? Because like, hear me out. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you just said like with the Philly 200, you're like, I knew I was going to beat her, right? Like, there's that
Mm-hmm.
confidence there. You didn't take kindly to losing to Gabby and Tamari in Miramar and
Mm-hmm.
in Miami,
Yeah.
and so like we got some good battles between like some of the top stars. And so
Hmm.
is this something where like you also kind of, and we see it on the guy side, like, right, they're pretty open about trash talking and all that stuff, but like on the
Hmm.
women's side too, like is that something too that you also view? It's like, you know what, yeah, Gabby is my rival going into next year, and that there's, you know, an opportunity, you know, at the World Ultimate Championships and stuff like that, and at US
Hmm.
Championships to really continue to, you know, race her at her best. And you know,
Yeah.
in the 100 too, it's your training partner. So like, how do you go
Hmm.
about framing rivals in this sport where like that's what people kind of want to play up?
Yeah. I think it's good for the sport, especially on the women's side, because for so long it's been, well, after, well, I would say I don't feel like people have really been talking about a true rivalry in the women's sprints since Shelly-Ann and Carmelita. Like
Yeah.
that was the last time it was kind of like a real thing. But now to be able to have not only rivalries in the 100, which is my main event, but also the 200 as well, like it's kind of like, okay, like it makes me happy. It makes me excited.
Yeah. What did you think of just sort of like, because this is interesting. You stayed out of just the fray of like all of the stuff that's happening on social media. Then you have Kenny and Noah pushing each other. And it's like for you, it's like when there's all of this noise in the sprints, and it's like you just were just like, I'm just going to continue running and winning. And that was it. But like, is that any part of it? Is any part of it like loud around you or no?
Um, I choose to not let it get that way for me. Because, like you said, there has been a lot going on this year, especially social media, people having their own thoughts and opinions about whatever the case may be. And there has been so many times where I've like went to X, hit the add button to tweet something, literally wrote it out and just backspace. And I was like, Melissa, it's not even worth your time. Like, there's been countless of times where I've just wanted to like retweet something or share it and be like, you're so wrong, but okay, cool, whatever. Like, because at the end of the day, like, that's what it's there for. People are gonna troll, they're gonna talk, like, they're gonna say what they want to say to get under your skin. Like, I'm not gonna give these folks the satisfaction of thinking like, though, like they're getting to me and all this stuff. And it is crazy because I said, I think I can't remember who I told, but I was like, when Kenny pushed Noah and the whole thing happened, I'm like, dang it, I went out there, ran 2184. I'm like, I done made some history and nobody's talking about it because Kenny want to push Noah. Like,
That's right. Yeah.
like,
The
okay,
same day.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, fine. I'll just wait my turn. Eventually, I'll do something where they won't have a choice but to talk about what I did. It'll work out. It'll work itself out.
And then that was the World Championships when you go and win 3 gold medals.
Yep.
All right. So when it comes to you handling that pressure, right? Like when you were on such a hot streak all throughout the season, getting to the World Championships, did it feel different? Like there was this expectation for you to come away with the gold medal. Entering the World Championships, there definitely was just sort of like it's Melissa versus Julian if everyone is at their top form, and that was kind of like for gold, right? Like
Yeah.
that was how everyone was viewing these races. And then for you internally, how did you just go about mentally framing the World Championships, where maybe for the first time you're entering as like a gold medal, you know, favorite and contender?
Yeah. Um, Going into it, so as the year went on, as things just kept happening, obviously, like I went through certain phases or certain periods throughout the year where I kind of felt like I needed to be a little bit more locked in than I was, depending on where in the season we were. Maybe it was, us getting to that third week of training, and I'm like, man, coach is really killing us. I'm tired. Like, I feel like I need to go out there and race. Or it just being, like trying to silence out social media and, really just trying to focus on myself, focus on what I need to do, and not worrying about what else is going on around me. So I feel like going into Worlds, especially after Brussels, I kind of came back home for those couple of days, and it was hard. Like, coach had us out there doing stuff like we was in the fall. I was like, excuse me, like, what are we was just doing 60s and 80s. Like, why are we out here doing multiple 200s and all of this craziness? Like, what's wrong with you? But just having like refreshing my mind. Like literally, we was on the track doing that, and I said I felt like it smells like fall training out here, and I didn't appreciate that. um, but just learning like when to and when to switch it off, like mentally, just you know, allowing myself to be Melissa, but then also making sure that I'm being disciplined enough, or I'm kind of at like competitor Melissa in a sense. So when we got to Tokyo, those first 2 weeks, I think we got to the track one day and we had blocks, and the air was real thick. I'm talking about like,
Yeah, it was humid.
yeah, yeah. But just like mentally, like you could feel like the pressure of like what was about to happen. All of us, like obviously, coach had it was 7 of us there, and of the 7 of us, 6 of us was competing individually. So you know you have to balance that, right? um Everybody wants the same things. However, it's up to us. Like coach tells us all the time, I give all of you the same tools to be able to go out there and perform the way you need to, but however, it's up to you. Like when you get on that line, like it's you who have to put it together. But that's how we approach it too. Like we train as a team, like we're a family. But when we get on that line, I'm gonna see you after the finish line. Like that's just what it is. No love lost or anything, but that's just, it has to be that way at the end of the day. And so going like leading up into the first round for the 100, like you could just feel it, and for a split second it did feel a little heavy, I will say that. But the one thing that I reminded myself of, and it's something that my coach has been telling me all year, is he was like, don't feel like you have to be anybody else. You know what you've been doing has been working for you. Continue to do that. Don't try to overdo it. Don't try to, just because we're at this meet, feel like you got to be this whole new brand person. If you've been being Melissa all year and you've been winning it all year, what else do you need to do? Like just go out there and be yourself.
What when it comes to just like regular season training, what is it? I guess like that Coach Dennis Mitchell does so well when it comes to balancing just like all of the talent that has to train with one another. Like how often are you and TT and Sha'Carri like in the same workouts? Like and what does he do to kind of like keep it individualized? Because you're all after the same team spots, you're all after the same medals, and that could be hard.
Yeah. So crazy enough, you say that. All of our workouts we do together. Like we
All
all
of
train
them.
together.
Wow.
Yeah, all of them. Like we might have sometimes where we'll have like, so in the fall, like when we're first getting back, like sometimes we'll split into, because this year it was 5 girls. So me, TT, Sha'Carri, Kayla, and Tonia. So we'll split into 2 groups where it'll be 2 of us running. Because in the fall we're in the grass. So like, say for instance, like this fall it was me and Tonia who was running together, but it was because of like where we was at pace wise, we were hitting we were at a different pace than TT and Sha'Carri was. So you know it's kind of like raising the bar in a sense. So like if anything, like we group ourselves that way, you know, but still also obviously pushing each other. And then once we transition over to the track, we still kind of stay in those groups, but then over time we kind of like mesh it a little bit or switch it up. And then by the time we get into like full blown sprinting and stuff, so we're like doing, say for instance, we have a 150 or a 120 or a 100 or 80, even a 50 or a 60 or a 50. We're all lining up on the line together and we're like doing the workout together. And then like I would say the most individualized it gets is on block days, but even then we're doing blocks together. It's like it's block day. Block day in Star Athletics training camp is literally like me day in a sense. Like it get real tense out there. Like it does for real. It can. And so like when it comes to him trying to, you know, find that balance, like I said before, he gives us all the same tools, but he really does. He trains us together, but like it's up to us to make it as individualized or whatever the case may be that we need to.
There's the moment in sprint season 1, I think, where it's like Coach Mitchell giving Sha'Carri the final instructions before going into the 100-meter final. Epic scene of like the whole entire series. And I'm curious, like, what is that like then at a U.S. Championships or at a World Championships where he has to do that same thing, but to two or three different individuals? Like, it's not together, I assume.
No, it's not. So he always walks us all over. And then he says whatever he needs to say to us individually, but he's saying whatever we need to hear. Like, I probably need to hear something different than Kayla needs to hear, or Sha'Carri probably needs to hear something different than what TT needs to hear, and vice versa. Like, all of us, whatever it may be, whatever we may need to hear, like, it don't even have to be something with the track or like something with the race itself. And maybe it needs to just be like, make sure you don't get in your own head. Make sure that you go out there and be yourself. You know, things like that. It just depends on who the person is and what they may need to hear at that moment.
What were the best final instructions this year? Like, what are some of the like final moments before you go on to the track that stick out to you? Was it USA's? Was it Worlds? Like, what were some of the ones that really like hit home to you?
Philly's 200 and Kingston's 200. All of these were 200s, by the way. Mind you, because I say I begin in my own head. So it's almost like he knows this for real.
So what's he say?
Kingston's 200. He was like, look, when you come off that turn, the wind's going to hit all of y'all, right? He said, look, if you just keep your turnover and don't get big and long, you'll win the race. And so I went out there and did that exact same thing, and I won. In Philly, he said, look, you got to jump her. If you get out there on her, she's not going to be able to catch you. I did that, and I won. And then we got to the finals in the 200 in Tokyo, and he said, look, we're going to do the same thing that we did in Philly. You do that in Philly, you'll win.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
So then what were the moments where just sort of like you did the biggest thing you stressed all throughout? And I remember when we had you kind of in the post-race show at one of the Grand Slams with, me, Sonia, and John Anderson. And you were just like, Melissa's got to focus on being Melissa like the whole entire season. And that was like the key thing that rung all throughout. When you watch back some of these races from Tokyo, where do you see those moments where you're like, that's what I was trying to do and I accomplished it?
Ooh. You know, it's so crazy. I kind of feel like all of my races this year have definitely been that way. But I would say if I had to pick any of them,
the most Melissa races, yeah.
The most Melissa races, Prefontaine.
Okay.
U.S. Trials 100 final. And Brussels.
It's so fascinating because people would just assume it's like, oh yeah, she's gonna pick the fastest one of the year, but it wasn't. So what was it about Prefontaine? I mean, again, like you beat Julian in that one, and that's like, I think it was a statement to the whole world, basically.
Yeah. Like how I said before, going into the 200 at Philly, I was like, they won't get you twice. That's what I told myself at pre. You know, it was basically the Olympic rematch final. It was basically the Olympic rematch. And last time I got third, I didn't want to get third this time. I wanted to win. So I was like, they won't get me twice. But just that race in itself, if I'm being Melissa, if I'm focusing on what I need to do, then the rest will take care of itself, which is why I've been so adamant and so keen on, making sure that I'm executing my race the way that I need to. If I execute my race the way that I need to, then I know that more than likely I'm going to get the results that I want. The 100 at trials, it was just kind of like you know what? You're doing it. Like, not like you did it, like you're doing it. You're doing exactly what you said you wanted to do. So it was kind of like my way of patting myself on the back by me just being me.
Yeah.
And then obviously in Tokyo, it was kind of like the build up to all of the things that I went through this year, mentally, physically, all of the happy times, like not letting, instead of trying to think like, okay, like it's going so good, I really hope it doesn't go bad. I just allowed it to just keep being good. And when I got to that race, crazy enough, the semifinals race, when I ran 10:73, I want everybody to know that I didn't realize I was running that fast, okay? So if I looked a little confused after I was walking back, I was genuinely confused because I got out and I felt Tina next to me get out. But then like I have gotten really comfortable at wanting to separate or feel the separation, and so that's what I did. Once I felt me clear her, I really shut it down. I was not trying to run anymore. And then I came through the line and I saw 1073 and I said, "Oh, well, all right, I'm going to go sit down now." And then just like that time in under the stadium, like in the call room warm up area, like in there was so much going on because obviously you have all these coaches in here, you have all these athletes, and everybody wants their athlete to win, obviously. But at the end of the day, whoever's time is going to be, whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and that's that. So, you know, you get to see the different dynamics. You either get to pay attention to it, or you either do pay attention to it or you don't. I wasn't in there minding my own business. It was so crazy because at one time I was sitting down, but genuinely looking confused still, because like, how the heck did I just run 1073 like that? And I remember my husband was up under there because obviously he's my physio, and so he was looking at me, but he had this kind of like concerned look on his face, and I just sat back and I looked up at him and I said, he said, "You know what?" You know what? Because he was genuinely concerned. Well, not concerned, but like he was trying to figure out where my head was, like what my headspace was. But once I smiled at him, he was like, "Oh yeah, she'll be all right." And then I went out there, and it was like once I crossed the line, I kind of had just like, ugh, on my face. But it was just kind of to say, like, sticking it to all you folks out there who didn't think, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've done so much, and I've proven myself time in and time out. And it's just like, sometimes for some people, it's just not enough. It's like, oh, well, yeah, you know, she's been running so good, but if she lines up to this person or that person, she might, you know, try to tense up, and it's like, why would you say that? I haven't been doing that all year. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. But yeah, so that was the race. That was my third race of where I felt like Melissa.
Yeah. No, you certainly stuck it to all of those people. And it's funny because it's like when I hear just like the people who do end up winning gold, they kind of, you sometimes like have to, I feel like there were fewer doubters and critics of you come Tokyo, but there might have been like in the lead up to it for sure.
Yeah.
And I just always think about like someone like Grant Holloway, who in all of those years when he was just winning so much, he always highlights sort of like, oh, all these doubters and haters that I have. And I was like, I don't know who those people are, because it's like, you're pretty good and like dominant all throughout. Like, so as an elite athlete, sometimes you do have to like allow some of that noise in to allow yourself to go all out and come away with the world lead, the gold medal, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what, that is very true, because you know sometimes, like, obviously there are some people, and it'd be a small amount, but sometimes you really might do need, like you said, you might do need that small amount. Like for me, I think I'll always want to do well and want to perform at a high level and accomplish the things that I do, because I feel like there's always going to be a small amount of people out there who just feel like whatever I do is just not enough.
Right.
So that's how I approach it. I'm like, okay, cool. Like I was actually saying this thing. I said, okay, no, because somebody said something. I can't remember exactly what they said, but it was along the lines of, you know, me leading up to Tokyo, obviously, and me, you know, running the times that I was, but it still wasn't going to change their pick or whatever the case may be. And I'm like, that's okay, cool, but like at the same time, you don't have to like downplay what I'm doing in order to support somebody else. Like, I don't get that at all. So I'm like, okay, fine. I said, at this point, I'm just gonna have to go out there and break the world record. That's the only way people are gonna shut up. Like, at this point.
The world records in the 100, 200, obviously for like the longest time, like people looked at it as like, that's not going to go down anytime soon. With the PRs that you've thrown down this year, like how much do you allow yourself to think, hey, that is actually more possible than I thought maybe 2 years ago?
Well, it does seem more realistic nowadays than it did, like you said, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But then also just not focusing on it, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like there's a lot of the times, especially from a fan's perspective, like you wonder like if somebody like Sydney, like literally only thinks about breaking the world record, because it seems like every time she touches the track, she does that, which is absolutely so cool. I wish the 100 was kind of like that in a sense, you know? But like, I feel like for me, in order for me to do that, because I would want to, obviously, I feel like in order for me to do that, I wouldn't focus so much on doing it. I would focus on, like you said, putting down the times that I have this year, putting together a cluster of races or times that are going to indicate, like, hey, if you keep this up, like I said, consistency is key. And sometimes when you hit, like people used to say all the time, you run 10-8, 10-8, 10-8, 10-8, 10-8. 10-7's coming, right? It's the drop is going to happen eventually. So if I can get to a point to where, you know, I'm consistently running 10-7, or I'm consistently running 10-6, or, you know, squeezing a little 10-5s in there somewhere, you know, if I continue to do things like that, then eventually, you know, the world record won't seem that far away. Obviously, still got a ways to go. I'm probably closer than I think I am, or I'm giving myself credit for, but it's just me respecting, you know, the time that's out there, because it's not easy. It's been up there now going on 40 years, like you said.
Yeah.
So obviously nobody's figured it out by now. So let's, you know, like let's keep chipping away at it. But yeah, so I feel like the biggest thing for me is just taking it how I've been taking it and just focusing on what's in front of me right now.
And then on the other side, you can just make the argument that in the 200, you're like, I've only been running it for 1 year, like really all out.
Yeah. You know, yeah, when you say it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so you mentioned the moment with Roland, you know, at World Championships before that final, and I do want to kind of highlight Roland here, because like he is someone who has he was a football player at Coastal Carolina, and now is a physio.
Yep.
Works super closely with you. Can you take me through just sort of like the last couple of years of him kind of going into this career, and also just being this anchor of support for you? Like every single time I guess I've seen him at the Grand Slam meets and at USA's, like he's your rock that is like number one champion, number one fan. And so I'm curious of just like how much, even from his own career, like he's leaned into just sort of like being just that number one support person.
Yeah. Roland is so funny because a lot of like he downplays how smart and intelligent he is, and how much like he doesn't realize how good he is already at what he does. People like to say in our sport, you know, it's really good to be a student of the sport, right? He's definitely a student of what he does. He went to school, got his bachelor's in exercise sports science, and then got his master's in education. And then after he graduated, he started doing stuff at Stretch Zone, right? He was working with Stretch Zone and was like, that's not really what I want to do. And so he went to the personal trainer aspect, started working at a gym once we moved down here in Florida. And it's like, you know, I really like it, but eventually I want to have something that's my own, right? And so after going to Paris last year and really like sitting down and thinking of like, okay, what do I really want to do? Like, how do I use my degree, or how do I, you know, get to where I want to get to, right? And so he's like, when we get back from Paris, I'm going to LMT school. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And so watching him go to school every single day, and it's crazy because with LMT school, you know, you have some people who are in the classes who they've been out of school for years, or they have no background like the knowledge that he does from his degree. So they're like going over the basics, and he's like, yeah, I went over this in like bio 232, like the first level of anatomy, right? So just watching him go through that, like persevere through that, even though like some days for him wasn't really that well, or, you know, he had moments where he felt like, you know, he didn't quite have it figured out. And I was like, look, eventually going to get to the part where you do figure it out, and when you do, you're going to look back at these moments to be like, I don't even know I was tripping like that. And he thought that I was just, in his words, being my mother's child, and just, you know, trying to speak life into him and get him to, you know, be positive and look at the bright side of things. But I told him that because I could see it. You know, I see how passionate he is about what he does, about what he wants to do. But you have to allow yourself to you have to allow yourself to be able to go through what you need to in order to get to where you're trying to go. And that's the biggest thing I explained to him. So after the wedding, he finished his hours and everything, and then he started working. He started out like it just being I'm seeing him like a little bit, because obviously I still have my other physio that I was working with. So he would, watch him sometimes, shadow him sometimes, and things like that. And then eventually it got to the point to where, some people on the team was like, hey, like, would Roland want to work with me? And it was like, sure. Like, matter of fact, you tell him, because if I tell him, he's going to think that, I'm just talking, right? So it got to the point, and by the time we got to USA's, he was working with multiple people on the team. He worked with Kayla, who made the team in PB. He worked with Courtney, who made the team in PB. Like, he worked with Tonia. He worked with Kyrie. They had season's best and everything. And then, obviously, like, he worked with me. Season's best, PB, like a whole lot of stuff going on. So, it speaks volumes to, him putting in the work, learning the things that he needs to learn, but also just allowing himself to grow and, look at it like, I'm finally doing what I want to be doing. But then just to have him like on my side, not only as my husband, but as the biggest part of my medical team, like my physio, is just means the world. He likes to say I'm his most problematic client because I be rescheduling. Literally, I'll be like, okay, let's get on the table at 3. Actually, we'll just do it before we go to bed tonight. But things like that. But like having that type of access or having that type of, leeway, it makes a difference. I'm working with someone who sees me on a daily basis, who like obviously knows my body and can say for instance, I work with a chiropractor that I don't see all the time. He can go to the chiropractor and say, hey, when I'm working on her, I feel this, I feel that. But also just having that type of resource to me, but also for him as well, is just so good. And eventually, hopefully he'll start to work with, not only more track athletes, but football players, who knows, the whole 9.
Yeah, because I guess he's got the football connection. I followed along on Instagram stories as you were like talking about your fantasy football team and everything. You've got friends, I guess, who play football professionally, and it got me also thinking, just sort of, obviously, who is it? Noah versus Tyreek was like a thing that was blown up until it never happened. But when people look at the stats and numbers and like the speed and the acceleration and how fast people are going, it's you and like the top women's sprinters can be faster in many cases than a lot of these NFL players. So I'll put it out there and see just sort of like what you think. But like, is part of you just down to show up to like Super Bowl weekend and like ready to race people?
Listen, I definitely would. Coach probably wouldn't be all for it, but if I work a little, if I don't give him no problems in training, then he might let me do it. But no, I would definitely do it. Like Roland's best friend, who plays for the Ravens, Isaiah Likely, one time in college, I actually raced him after the game. Well, he slipped and fell, but I took off, so technically I beat him. And now he wouldn't dare line up against me. I'll smoke him. He don't want this.
No, I think it's like you have just like a good vantage point of just and those players that know you also probably recognize like, yeah, actually there's a massive difference between track speed and NFL speed.
Oh yeah, but it's good for them to be able, especially like for those of them who know me. I have most of them obviously are Roland's friends, but one of the guys who plays for the Rams, we went to the same high school, and he's from where I'm from. So for them to be able to see, like, know me personally, but then also like say like, hey, like y'all don't understand, like these people are fast for real. Like y'all are fast, but they're fast. Like this is what they do for a living. It's really good, because like I said before, like our sport needs to, we need to be recognized, but we also need to be respected. Like there's so many times where you have people who like, oh, I bet you I can race you, or like, and it's like, no, like that's not how this works. Like I don't like when football players will say like, oh, I could beat this person, I could beat that person, but it's like, you don't see any of them trying to get on a football field talking about I can run a route like Jamar Chase. That's so disrespectful. Like, who would say that?
All right, so you're in your, I guess fall training hasn't even started yet, like for you. You're enjoying a nice break. From my understanding, this is like a total break, right? Like no workouts, nothing. So it had me thinking, so it's 6 weeks off or something?
Give or take 6 weeks.
Okay. So
Yeah.
when you come back, that first
Mm-hmm.
week back, I'm just so interested in how this works because if it was a distance runner, right, you take 6 weeks off entirely and you try and run a mile, like you're going to be way off of your PR.
Uh-huh.
So when that first week, day back of practice, looking at 2026, if you were to run an all-out 100, what do you run in the first day of practice?
Ooh. If I came back from doing absolutely nothing, I don't know. Cause this like okay, so do I have on spikes or do I have on trainers?
It's spikes. So we'll give you just
Ooh.
any benefit. Yeah.
Oh man. In spikes, let me see. My PB is 1061. In spikes, I'm not gonna lie, I probably run like I probably run like 12 seconds. I'm not even lying. I probably run like 12 seconds.
And then it takes what, like a month to finally like feel like, all right, we're getting
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, a little bit. But see like with coach like his fall training like we be in the grass for about maybe a month and a half.
Mhm.
So, and even when we do transition to the track like we're still in flats. So, it feels like eternity with us. Like it just never stops. Fall training is so depressing. So depressing.
All I've heard is it's torture.
It is torture.
Okay, so I mean, not to get too far ahead, but 2026. There's no World
Hmm.
Championships. There's no, I guess like there's the World Ultimate Championships, and now you've got your spot secured in the 100 and the 200 as the gold
Hmm.
medalist. But like, how do you feel like you're going to be approaching 2026 from like what you want to really dig your heels into and focus on? Because like clearly this year doing both events, like you made great progress in both. But do you
Hmm.
look at 2026 and be like, is this the year I try and do a little bit more in the 200, or
Yeah.
is the 100 like what are your early thoughts on 2026?
Yeah. So I do want to be able to kind of like almost kind of like a free for all type deal. So not really doing anything that's going to be like so serious or like I don't want to run as many hundreds as I did this year or like maybe like you said maybe do run a little bit more 200s. My coach and my husband's talking about running these relays, these 4x4s. I don't really know what they're talking about, but maybe like doing something like that too, but just trying to have fun with the year and really like treat it as much as treat it as much like an off season as possible, but then also like just not totally taking a year off or like shutting it down early and then having a longer break and stuff like that. So just trying to find a balance in that.
Yeah, we barely even talked about like the 4x1 in Tokyo. Was there ever any just like thought, because I mean you're the gold medalist in the 100, of you anchoring that 4x1?
Yeah.
But you preferred just like the leg that you got?
Yeah, I said at the end of the day, like I could run first or fourth. It just worked out that way that I could run first, but it really didn't matter to me at the end of the day. I was like, look, as long as I get a gold medal, who cares?
Okay. All right, so then we touched on just sort of like looking ahead to 2026, but I do have to come back to the fact as just like the big what if. Like there was that deal that you made with Coach Goodman, like when you were in college, of just sort of like if you ran fast in the 60, then he wasn't going to make you move to the 400. But now,
Hmm.
just given the success of 100, 200, like, and because next year can be a little bit more of a free for all year, do we see you in a 400 at any point?
You know, my mom always tells me to never say never. So I won't say that you won't see me, but I will say that I hope you don't see me in a 400.
I always feel like the cop out is that we see it happen at like Florida relays or something like that, where it's like very early.
Oh
We don't
yeah,
get to see like peak shape or anything like that. But
yeah.
all right, so if someone would have thrown a 400 on your calendar, say it at like at a meet like Athos that's happening, you would have been in the
Hmm.
400 instead. Like, what do you think you could have run?
Oof.
You're,
Like at the end of the
that's right.
year,
There's no PR. You don't have a
yeah,
400 PR.
none, none. I don't know if I would have ran a 400 this year. I think I could have ran. This is me getting out of my own way.
Yeah.
What I could have ran. I feel like 50, 50 point mid, like so, like 50.6. 50.7.
I think you're selling yourself short, just like you did with the 200.
Listen, my Roland would say that I could run like 49.9. I'm like, that's, you know how fast that is?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not fast now. You know, we've had
What Sydney just did, right?
you know, like that's slow, right? Like 49.9. What is she talking about? But no, for me, that's very, very fast.
All right, Melissa, this has been a great pleasure chatting with you. And I'm just like, because like the thing is, and I'm glad we get to do this, like, you know, very often all throughout the season. And it feels like your story, it's got so many different parts to it that I feel like resonate with people. Like,
Yeah.
obviously there's the success that we see on the track, but like everything from, I mean, NBC did a whole piece on just sort of like the transplant that you had with your dad, and like that's kind of resonated with its own audience. And when you go on the things like the Jennifer Hudson show, like there's just a whole nother element of you just being like the underdog from like the small town, the small school, like,
Yeah.
and so there's just so much to you that I feel like that a lot of people can gravitate towards. And like when we did have that discussion early on about like the faces of the sport, I definitely do see you as just someone who can break through and captivate fans. And like it's just been a joy to watch you this season, and seeing you blossom into this star, because you know you're going to be a key part in what makes LA 2028 like really special for American track fans.
Thanks. I know I'm definitely excited. I feel like I said it before, especially when I first signed with Nike. I feel like I'm on like the perfect stretch of events, like with the championships and LA, or yeah, the Olympics, like LA, like it's like the perfect stretch. So I'm definitely excited.
And you made me look like a genius, because at the very beginning of the year, my bold prediction, I'll remind people, was I think this is the year Melissa Jefferson figures out the 200 and
You
becomes a
did
star.
say that.
And guess what? She's got the gold medal to prove it.
Oh yeah.
Perfect. Melissa, thank you so much.
Thank you.